He almost died on his first month at San Quentin's most dangerous unit. The alarms were blaring so loud it felt like the walls were shaking. In San Quentin's adjustment center, the most volatile unit in one of America's toughest prisons, Officer Marcus Ramirez was pinned against a cold steel door. His heart was pounding. Just seconds earlier, a calm morning count had turned into total chaos when an inmate named Tank suddenly attacked another prisoner right in the middle of the tier. Shouts and the sound of metal banging filled the narrow hallway. Marcus gripped his radio with both hands. "Unit 3, we have a major fight. Requesting backup now," he yelled. Guards came running from every direction, but the two inmates were already rolling on the floor, fists flying. Then Tank broke free, spun around, and looked straight at Marcus with wild eyes. He took one heavy step forward. Marcus raised his baton, but before he could say another word, Tank lunged. The next few seconds were a blur of shouting, swinging arms, and the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Marcus felt a sharp pain in his side as the emergency lights flashed red and the entire unit exploded into pure pandemonium. Backup officers finally rushed in and pulled Tank off him, but the damage was done. As Marcus lay on the cold concrete trying to catch his breath, he realized this was exactly why they called this place Life on the Edge. But to understand how Officer Marcus Ramirez ended up fighting for his life in San Quentin's most dangerous unit, we have to go back 3 months earlier, to the day he first walked through the prison gates full of hope and confidence. 3 months earlier, the California sun was shining on San Quentin State Prison as 24-year-old Marcus Ramirez stepped off the staff bus for his first day on the job. He had just finished training and was excited to start his new career as a correctional officer. His supervisor met him at the gate. "Welcome to San Quentin, Ramirez. Today you're going straight into the adjustment center, one of the most volatile units in the entire prison system." Marcus felt a rush of nerves and pride. He wanted to help keep people safe and make a difference. The first few weeks were tough but manageable. He learned how to count inmates, check cells, and walk the long metal tiers. The older guards taught him the rules and showed him how to stay alert at all times. During quiet moments, Marcus would stand on the tier and look out at the San Francisco Bay sparkling in the distance. He thought about his mom back home and how proud she was. The prison yard looked peaceful in the morning light, and for a while everything felt under control. But even in those calm early days, Marcus noticed things the training manuals didn't mention. The way certain inmates watched every move the guards made. The way some blocks stayed strangely quiet. One veteran officer pulled him aside one afternoon and said quietly, "This unit can go from 0 to 100 in a single second. Never turn your back. Never let your guard down." Marcus nodded, but he still believed he was ready. Then one ordinary afternoon, while doing a routine cell search, an inmate in the back of the cell spoke in a low voice that sent a chill down Marcus's spine. "You're new here, huh? Welcome to the Edge, kid. Things are about to get real interesting for you." The weeks that followed were a mix of long shifts and small victories. Marcus worked hard to learn every face and every name in his unit. He started to recognize the different groups of inmates and how to keep things calm during meals and yard time. On quieter days, he would talk with some of the older inmates who had been in San Quentin for many years. One man named Mr. Hayes, who had kind eyes, told Marcus stories about how the prison had changed over time. "This place tests every single person who walks through those gates," he said softly. "Even the officers." Marcus felt himself growing stronger. He helped stop small arguments before they turned bad and made sure everyone got their fair share of time outside. At night, he would call his mom and tell her, "It's hard work, but I'm learning fast." But slowly the tension in the adjustment center began to rise. Whispers moved through the tiers. Inmates started watching the guards more closely. One evening during the nightly count, a new inmate arrived, a man everyone already called Razor. The moment he stepped onto the tier, the whole block seemed to hold its breath. That night Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the cold look Razor had given him when their eyes met. The very next morning during yard movement, the first real trouble hit. A sudden shout echoed down the hallway, followed by the sound of running feet. Marcus grabbed his radio and sprinted toward the noise. When he turned the corner, he saw two inmates facing off, and Razor standing right in the middle with a dangerous smile on his face. Before Marcus could even speak, the first punch flew and the entire tier erupted into chaos once again. Backup officers rushed in and broke up the fight before anyone was seriously hurt. But the message was clear: the adjustment center was heating up. For the next few days, the unit stayed on high alert. Extra searches were done, and movement was restricted. Marcus used the calmer moments to study the prison's rules even harder. He spent time learning about the different security levels and why certain inmates were housed in this unit. He began to understand that many of the men here had long histories of violence both inside and outside the walls. During one quiet afternoon shift, Marcus was assigned to escort an older inmate to the medical clinic. The man walked slowly beside him and said, "You seem like a good kid. Just remember, in here, things can change faster than you can blink." Marcus thanked him, but the words stayed with him. As the days passed, small signs of trouble kept appearing. Inmates were caught with homemade weapons. Arguments broke out over nothing. Marcus noticed that Razor was quietly building influence on the tier. Then, during an evening lockdown, Marcus was doing a final head count when he heard a loud bang from a nearby cell. He turned just in time to see an inmate slam his fist into the door and shout, "This place is about to blow." The words sent a wave of tension through the entire block. Marcus radioed the control booth, but before help could arrive, the lights flickered and another shout rang out from the far end of the tier. Something big was coming, and it was coming soon. The prison went into a temporary lockdown for 2 days while staff searched every cell. When the unit finally returned to normal movement, Marcus could feel the pressure building like a storm cloud. He stayed extra alert during every shift. In the calmer moments between counts, he would talk with his fellow officers in the break room. They shared stories about close calls and the importance of watching each other's backs. Marcus started to feel like part of a real team. One afternoon, he was assigned to the yard with a small group of inmates. The sun was shining and the bay looked beautiful in the distance. For a short time, everything felt almost normal. Inmates played basketball and talked quietly. Marcus stood on the edge of the yard, scanning the area the way he had been trained. But as the yard time ended and the inmates lined up to return to their cells, Marcus noticed Razor walking slowly toward the back of the line. Razor looked directly at him and gave a small, cold smile. That night, Marcus wrote in his personal notebook, "This unit is like walking on a tightrope. One wrong step and everything can fall apart." The very next morning, during breakfast movement, the explosion finally came. A shout turned into a scream, and suddenly 3 inmates were fighting in the middle of the tier. Officers rushed in, but the fight spread fast. Marcus ran toward the chaos, baton ready. When he saw Tank, one of the largest and most feared inmates in the unit, breaking away from the group and charging straight toward him with nothing but rage in his eyes, Marcus barely had time to brace himself. Tank slammed into him like a freight train, knocking him back against the railing. The 2 men struggled as other inmates shouted and guards tried to push through the crowd. For a few terrifying seconds, Marcus was fighting alone. Backup finally arrived and officers pulled Tank off him. Marcus stood up, breathing hard, his uniform torn. The unit was placed on immediate lockdown again. As the inmates were forced back into their cells, Marcus could hear them yelling threats through the doors. For the rest of that shift, the entire adjustment center stayed tense and quiet. Marcus sat in the officer station with an ice pack on his shoulder, thinking about how quickly things had turned dangerous. The next few days were filled with investigations and extra security. Marcus used the calmer time to talk with his training officer about what had happened. "You did good, kid," the older guard told him. "But this place never really sleeps. The edge is always there." Marcus nodded, but inside he felt the weight of the job growing heavier. He thought about his family and why he had chosen this career. Then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, the control room received a tip from an inmate. Something major was being planned for that night, something that could turn the entire volatile unit into a battlefield. Marcus was assigned to the evening shift, and as the sun went down over the bay, he felt the tension rising once again. He had no idea that the worst night of his young career was only hours away. The evening started quietly, but Marcus could feel something was wrong. Inmates were too still. Whispers moved through the tiers. At 8:45 p.m., the first alarm went off in the adjustment center. Marcus and 6 other officers responded immediately. When they reached the middle tier, they found 2 inmates already fighting. Within seconds, the fight spread to 3 more cells. Shouts turned into screams as homemade weapons appeared. Marcus stayed at his post, trying to keep the inmates in their cells while backup poured in. The emergency lights flashed red, and the whole unit became a storm of noise and movement. Then, from the far end of the tier, Tank and Razor started moving together toward the officers. Marcus raised his baton and shouted for them to stop, but the 2 men kept coming. The next few minutes were pure chaos, batons swinging, bodies hitting the floor, and the sound of alarms echoing through the concrete walls. Marcus fought to hold his position as the volatile unit lived up to its name in the most terrifying way possible. When the smoke finally cleared and the unit was locked down, Marcus stood in the hallway breathing hard, his uniform covered in dust. He looked around at the damage and realized he had just survived one of the worst disturbances the adjustment center had seen in months. But as he walked back to the officer station, one of the sergeants pulled him aside and said in a low voice, "This isn't over, Ramirez. They're already planning the next one." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He was beginning to understand exactly what life on the edge really meant at San Quentin's most volatile units. And the edge was getting closer every single day.